Yeah, I'll just start. I'm calling the Zoning and Land Regulation Committee meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is for public comment on anyone wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda? So now I'll continue with introductions of the committee and staff and our youth governance member. So with me this evening are Supervisors Jerry Bullard, Supervisor Al Matano, I'm the chair, Supervisor Mary Kolar. We may be joined later by Supervisor Patrick Miles. Staff here with us this evening, Zoning Administrator Roger Lane, Assistant Zoning Administrator Dan Everson, Director of Planning and Development Todd Violante, and our youth governance member here tonight is Sam Fisher. The committee will be conducting a public hearing on zoning petitions and conditional use permit applications. Any persons wishing to speak in favor or in opposition must fill out one of the white forms that are on that podium over there and submit the sheet to staff. When a petition is called, the petitioner will be asked to come up here to this desk here and sit in one of those chairs. We ask that the petitioner state their name, address, and the petition request, and reasons for the request. The petitioner will be given up to 5 minutes to address the committee. The order of registrants is as follows. After the petitioner or agent or any persons wishing to speak in favor, then persons wishing to speak in opposition. All speakers will be given 5 minutes to speak. If there is opposition, the petitioner or agent will be given an opportunity at the end of the public hearing to provide a rebuttal to the opposition. The petitioner will be given an additional 3 minutes. All speakers will address the committee. All comments will be to the committee, the three of us here and our youth governance member. There will be no running debate or comments to individuals in the audience. The committee will not take action on a petition until the applicable town has filed a report with the zoning division. The deadline for the towns to submit an action report to the county is the Thursday prior to the meeting date. Public testimony will be taken at this meeting. However, if town action has not been received, a decision will be made at a subsequent meeting. If there is public opposition on a petition, the petition will be postponed until the next meeting of the committee. This will give the petitioner, opposition, and staff an opportunity to work out matters between parties. If the town's action has been submitted and there is no opposition to a petition, the committee may act on the petition and refer the petition to the county board. If the committee passes the petition unanimously, your presence at the county board may not be necessary. However, if the petition is controversial, it is advised that you attend the county board meeting. Committee action on conditional use permits is the final action of the county. These applications are not referred to the county board. The petitions which are recommended for approval will be placed on the February 1st county board agenda. The next ZLR committee meeting is February 13th. Our first petition is rezone petition 11,234, Deerfield Heights LLC in the town of Deerfield. Hello.
Hello, I'm Don Imhoff, 18 Lamplighter Way, Madison, and I'm here for the rezoning of farmland in the township of Deerfield to include 4 residential lots.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
The farm, 265 acres, has been in the family for 45 years plus. This is the first land division, and with the number of family members, right now probably 2 out of the 4 lots will be going to family members, and by the time we're done, I could see all 4 lots.
Very good. Okay.
So, any questions at this point?
Not yet. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of Deerfield is still reviewing this petition.
Move postpone. I'll second that.
Okay, you understand our rules if...
Well, I've been to the planning commission and the township, and they were both passed unanimously. So they did not send a report in, is that it?
That's correct. I emailed Robin with regards to the town action report for 11-234 and 11-235 and received no response. Unless it's in your,
I
it's
don't
not
have
in the,
those.
it's not in the list.
Mine's not at all,
Okay.
Supervisor McConnell, did your packet have anything?
Oh, I didn't see anything.
No.
different.
No.
Okay, just want to double check,
No.
just to see it. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it.
And that's on the next petition as well?
On the next petition, we're looking to postpone that. There'll be an amendment to add Lot 2 on the survey. And there was discussion about vacating a town road driveway, and that is not going to be done.
Okay. So back to 11-234, we have, did I hear Supervisor McConnell make the motion? Did you make it to postpone?
I think I seconded it.
Okay, that was the,
We sort of tied it.
okay.
I think it was Miles moved and.
So we have
Okay, yeah.
a motion and a second to postpone due to lack of town action. Further discussion or any questions from Mr. Imhoff? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of postponement due to lack of town action, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And so we postpone that. We can go right into 11-235. What would you like to add for 11-235?
Again, that was passed unanimously by the township planning and town board, but we're looking for a postponement on that to make some changes.
Because you are going to change it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
No?
Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger, on 11-235.
We still have not received the town action report from the town of Deerfield.
But you heard there's some more changes
Yeah.
coming.
I'll follow up.
Okay, good.
Move postpone.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to postpone. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's postponed. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is 11,236, but I don't have a white sheet. Hmm? Anyone here for rezone petition 11,236 Duacam Investments, Town of Cottage Grove? Okay, we have a motion to table.
So moved. Second.
The motion and a second to table. We'll see where we're at later in this meeting. Any discussion on the tabling? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And we'll table 11-236, see if anyone shows up. 11-237, Ronald Millen in the town of York.
Stephen Millen, oldest son of Ronald, power attorney, residing in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and we're petitioning to sell off basically the farmstead, retaining the rest of the ag land. They're no longer residing in the house in assisted living, so I'd like to get the property sold off.
Anything else you'd like to add? Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of York has approved this petition with no conditions.
I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's approved.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Did you see 12-238? Did you see 12-238? Okay, so you haven't either, so, okay. Is anyone here for rezone petition 11,238? Travis Leeser in town of Rutland?
Move the table.
Second.
On the motion and second to table, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And it's tabled. 11-239, Croneman, town of Medina.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
I'm Lyndon Croneman. 728, or, I know. Looking at segregating off 5 acres from the existing farmland of the 60, going from A1X to RH2. Just basically, we're going to keep the old buildings and the house there, so I'm looking at retiring there this summer. Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of Medina has approved this petition with some conditions. The town of Medina would like a deed restriction for no further development on the remaining acreage, and then also have a deed restriction with the town of Medina specialized animal unit restrictions.
Move approval with the 2 town conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval with 2 town conditions. Discussion? And you were aware of those?
Yes, I was made aware of it, the zoning and the town board meetings, yeah. They're kind of particular there, yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It's approved.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
You bet.
Next is conditional use permit 02404, Revocable Trust Philip Hastings in the town of Deerfield.
Okay, I guess I'm here for the CUP, for more, like, trucks on the property,
Okay,
is all it's for, vehicles, or whatever you want to call it. So that's basically all I need.
okay.
Right.
Anything else you wanted to add then? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, Roger?
This conditional use permit is still pending at the town of Deerfield.
Oh, and also registered in support is Aaron Hastings. And, so that was Philip Hastings and Aaron Hastings in support. Supervisor Lowe.
Yes, because we don't have the town action yet, I'll make a motion to postpone this petition.
Second. We have a motion and a second postponed due to lack of town action. Supervisor Miles.
Just wanted to know, we also have a letter of opposition in our packet.
Okay. Again, for all supervisors, and you should know of it as well. We had a letter of opposition.
Do I get one of them?
Pardon?
Or do I get a copy of that, or?
Do you have one? Which one are you looking at then? Would you make sure he gets a copy of what's in our packet? Is it
I
the,
think you may be on the wrong.
Yeah, I don't,
Should I skip ahead to
02404?
the?
yeah, I don't have anything in my
Yes,
packet.
there was no opposition.
Sorry.
okay.
Okay, good.
No, just lack of town action.
Or else I would have called you
Yeah.
and told you.
Thanks.
All right.
Sorry about that.
No, this one's purely up to the town.
Okay, paying attention. Okay, further discussion on the motion to postpone due to lack of town action. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And it's postponed. Okay,
Okay.
thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Next is CUP 02405, Kirk Eilenfeld in the town of Cottage Grove.
Thank you. My name is Buck Sweeney. I'm with the law firm of Baxley Brenelson, and I represent Wade Cattell, who is the petitioner. Kurt Eilenfeld is on his way, so he'll be here shortly on it. We're going to have Wade start to open up, and I'm going to follow, and then we have Scott McWilliam with us as well. He's an appraiser that has looked at the property.
Okay. So if you could keep it to 5 minutes or less.
Well, we're proposing to change the zoning and to get a conditional use permit, excuse me, not change the zoning, for 35 acres north of our existing non-conforming pit.
They've got a map up there they can look at.
Okay. I believe that they have, do you have packages that have all the maps that we
Yes.
have?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
Yep, we've got them in front of us.
Yeah, just if,
this expansion goes to the north of the existing one. All access will continue through the existing quarry that we have. There won't be any access to local roads. We'll use our driveway to Highway 12. The entire property will be fenced in with a gate, and our intent is to mine in 2 to 3 acre increments, and at one time have no more than 9 acres disturbed before we reclaim 2 to 3 acres and work our way around. So at all times, no more than 9 acres would ever be disturbed. It's going to be an evolving extraction site. So the land that we don't do will continue to be farmland. The land that's undermining, or that we mine, in order to get beyond the 9 acre total, we will have already reclaimed the first 3 acre parcel, and we'll move in 3 acre parcels. All the exterior berms will be 7 feet high with a 1-to-1 slope. Interior berms will be 5 foot high berms on 1-to-1 slopes. Restored in 7 to 14 days. We'll get it mulched in hay, and we'll monitor it and take care of it until we get good growth, so that there's no erosion issues. We'll be pumping water. The gravel deposit is underwater. We're working with the DNR to get necessary permits, and the water will be pumped into the previous mined area to lower the water level while we mine. We won't be digging through water. We'll be dewatering, mining, and then filling the hole back up, restoring as we go. We're moving farther and farther away from all of the neighbors, and we feel there's absolutely we're not intrusive to any of them. And it should be pretty much out of sight, out of mind. It's a very remote area. And I feel it's a good fit.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
Not right at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So my name is Buck Sweeney. I'm an attorney and representing Wade on this, and we've gone through and we've worked with him. But on the operation, I think it's real important to point out where the red area is the CUP. That's really what we're dealing with. In going through the opposition submittals that we had today, a lot of the things they were talking about was the conditional use permit that's on the concrete batch plant, and the batch plant is closer up by 12 and 18, and that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. We're here to talk about a 35-acre expansion there. We're not here to talk about the non-conforming use existing site. This is actually going to help a lot of the issues that some of the people who are in opposition are complaining about, because the stockpiles, as we go and as we move and crush the material, we're actually going to be moving back further away. We're moving backwards away from 12 and 18, away from the houses that are the closest to this particular site. So we're trying to operate this and be good neighbors at the same time, and try to work backwards towards that. We think this is a good plan to do it. We've went through the 6 necessary components and the 5 in exclusive ag, and they're included in your handouts and part of the application, so I'm not going to go into detail regarding those. But some of the issues in the opposition, they talk about changing a house that's zoned residential to commercial, and Scott's going to talk a little bit about that from the appraisal point of view. But what we want to talk about is just that we really want to focus on the CUP. We've worked on a lot of these over the years, and this one is really, it's a lower elevation. It's down in the middle of farmland. The farmer is here. He's going to farm around.
You're running out of time, so you've got about 30 seconds left. So
the farmer will talk a little bit about the farming operation and that, and I'll let Scott take over from there. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Scott McWilliams, a certified general appraiser in Oregon, Wisconsin. I was asked to address the potential impact of residential home values in the immediate area. I investigated the sales of 8 properties that all were located within less than a mile, with the exception of one 1.25 miles away that I found on MLS, to find out whether or not the existing operation had any adverse impact on marketing time, sales prices, or sales price to assessed value ratio. Rather than go through all 8, because 5 minutes goes by rather fast, I'm going to address one particular property. This was MLS number 1790909 at 2236 US Highway 12. That's a residence that sold in June of 2017. It sold for $249,000. It was listed for $249,500. Sold for $243,900, and it is located immediately adjacent the existing operation. This home was advertised as a rural residence with close proximity and connections to Madison.
Okay. We got it, and your time's up, and we do have people registered in opposition, and so you'll be able to come back up for another 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
What? He gets 5 minutes, doesn't he?
Speaker for the same petition?
Everybody gets 5 minutes.
I got you. You got it. All right, because I would be calling on more people in support. You're right. So it's been about 6 minutes so far, so please continue.
Oh, okay. This is in close proximity, similar proximity to a appraisal I reviewed that suggests that the highest and best use of a home 2 doors down to the west of this property would have no longer be plausible for a residential use. This is clearly evidence of market activity that the highest and best use is maintained as a rural residential use. There were no indications in any of the 8 sales that I reviewed that would indicate any pronounced loss in value as a result of the proximity to the existing mining operation. No evidence of any extended marketing time, and the assessed value to market value ratios were maintained on all of these properties. So to me, as I looked at it, I saw no evidence that the existing, and this is an existing use, this is an expansion of the existing use. There's no evidence to me that the expansion of the existing use will have any impact on any existing residential values.
You have basically till, I lost my clock, 1 minute to 7. So anything else that you wanted to add in support?
Just again, what we're doing is the ready mix plant's saying, the land is saying we're going in that back circle. So any effect on the house is going to be minimized because the material that we're mining from there is going to be put in the ready mix. We don't have to haul any material in, which is another benefit from this particular property.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add in support? I apologize for
No,
trying to
I just want to reiterate that there will be no increase in truck traffic to where we are at this very time. So it's not like we're going to be trucking more material because of this in and out to driveways and or onto Highway 12.
Okay.
And I would add just one other thing. In addition to the review of the sales themselves, I also compared each of these properties to homes that were located of similar characteristics outside the area of the existing operation to find out how they compared, and they compared in similar fashion the marketing time, sales price per square foot.
Do you have a report you can leave in?
Yes, and I've got a copy of a report that I'll leave with you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Okay. Wishing to speak in opposition, Otto Ottoson?
Hi.
Hello.
Like a month?
Yep, right up here.
Okay, Addison, me and my family, or my brothers and sisters, own the property directly north.
Unless you can sit down if you'd like.
Directly north of the proposed CUP, and we are opposed to it. We've always had a gravel pit down there our whole lives. We've always gone down and played in it when we were kids. And it was just a dinky gravel pit back then. And now you can see it's 52 acres. And I just can't, for the life of me, see why we're going to give them more land when they haven't reclaimed anything from the old area. It just doesn't really make sense to me that we can't get rid of some of the scarring on the earth. It does not seem like it's a good idea. It's very close to the Little Door Creek there, and I wonder if it's a good idea for the watershed, for the aquifer, for the wildlife, and I know it's going to disturb our pleasure along the creek there. So I'm opposed, and I'm not sure if you can tell by that map. We were given this map at the town meeting. And may I approach?
Sure.
This is the line, they said, is the property.
Mhm.
Well, me and the old man, we fixed the fence along here for many, many years. So if they survey it and find the line is there, are they going to take away that woods?
Okay.
That's my concern.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like that?
You can share it with them.
Was my 5 minutes up?
You have 3 more minutes if you.
Like I said, I've always seen that gravel pit down there, and it was just a small little thing before. No one complained, no one minds. But now look at it. The neighbors got to listen to that traffic. I can hear the beep, beep, beep. I can hear the vibrating of the trucks. And is there any end in sight? Are we ever going to be able to get rid of it? It's a mineral extraction pit. When are they going to extract the minerals and then put it back, reclaim it? Seems unfortunate that they just have to expand it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can have your map.
It's in our packet.
We have this in our packet.
Next wishing to speak in opposition is Alex Kokendorf.
Yes, thank you. Can I walk up to this screen and show everybody where my house is?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. This right here is my home. It's 80 feet from the Hall Road that services this 52 acres and this proposed acreage here. Everything will be coming out of this driveway, which is 80 feet from my house. We can hear all the backup alarms from here. Otto is up in here and he can hear them. We can hear them inside of our house with the doors closed, windows shut. Okay, let me sit down over here. So again, my name is Alex Tukendorf. My family and I live at 2292 US Highway 12 and 18, Cottage Grove. It's that small rectangle there. We purchased our home in June of 2005, knowing full well there was a gravel pit there. We knew that that was there, and it abuts 2 sides of my property. At the time, the gravel pit had extraction activities on and off for the last 40 years. They've been taking materials out of that for 40 years. People in the neighborhood, including Otto and others, heard that it was near exhaustion and ready to be reclaimed. So that's what a lot of the neighbors were kind of going for. Anyway, it's been an ongoing nuisance. Since 2005, there's been 3 different operators of that pit that we've lived with, and the first 2 were easy to work with. The one that we have now has not been. The first one was Yahara Materials. They mainly took gravel out of the pit because most of the sand in there is not suitable for concrete mix, which is what the entire property is used to support. In my opinion, both of those pits are used to support the concrete plant, and all that material comes out past our house. There was a time when Sun Prairie Sand and Gravel had it. They mainly took gravel out of there because the sand was not good for concrete. What sand that they had, they were selling to the city of Madison for using on the streets for the ice and stuff like that. So anyway, there's a lot of unusable material in there. How did all this happen? Somehow the operator was able to get a permit for a concrete plant in a nearly exhausted, non-conforming pit. Statements were made without industry professionals' input. That means there was never any core borings done by the current owner or geologist reports on how much material was left in there when he bought it. It was all a guess. For example, in the June 22nd Plan Commission meeting at the town of Cottage Grove, this came up a number of times. Even Wilmer Larson, who's been in this area for a long time, was a little bit concerned about how much material was left in there to support a concrete plant. The operator stated that there was 30 to 40 years at the planned workload. Well, we don't know what the workload was, but factually the material lasted about 6 years. That's why he's seeking an expansion. That is pretty much exhausted, especially of gravel. There's sand there. I'm not a professional on sand, but most of it's been used on roads to cover ice up. Where are the other neighbors? There's 2 other homes there next to ours. We're the ones most directly impacted by the noise of the concrete trucks, the dust that's generated off the blacktop driveway when it's not being watered down. The 2 owners, the Morkeys and the Johnson, they've basically given up trying. The Johnsons brought to the attention of the town board and the ZLR when this concrete plant permit was being approved, and a lot of their complaints or concerns were dismissed, especially the noise, the dust, property value declines, and 24-hour-a-day operations. That's a big issue too. I know that the other side doesn't want to talk about the concrete plant.
If you just want to wrap it up, you have about 30 seconds.
Okay. Anyway, please restore our rights by denying this application, revoking the cup for the concrete plant, and getting this non-conforming pit that is exhausted or nearly exhausted reclaimed. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Next, wishing to speak in opposition, Andrea Enriquez.
My name's Andrea Enriquez, and I live at 3380 North Star Road, which is just to on the map on the left. I emailed a few of you today. Did you? Yes. Were you able to look at the packet? Because I brought it with me if you need it. Okay. We have spoken in opposition to the quarry expansion at numerous town meetings over the years. There have been multiple complaints in meeting minutes about the current operations, and pages of neighbors in opposition that signed an ongoing petition. Not only do we have concerns about an expansion to a quarry with a questionable track record, but we are also concerned about the application and voting process. We disagree with the town board voting before a full Dane County zoning application and committee hearing. We also feel that the town made a biased vote when they were contacted prior to the board meeting by letters from Dane County zoning administrators saying the neighbors' concerns and complaints are false without proof. More recently, we discovered that the notice to neighbors was, in our opinion, incomplete. Only neighbors close to the parcel under review were notified, even though the parcel in review is an expansion of an existing mine with the same operator. We think notice to neighbors should have been extended to all neighbors of the surrounding quarry that are continuously seeing negative effects to their property. We ask that the permit be denied.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add? Okay. Thank you. Next, wishing to speak in opposition, I think it's Krista Westholtz, maybe?
Good evening, Krista Westerberg. Sorry for my handwriting there.
Sorry.
And cold too, so I hope you can hear me. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Krista Westerberg with the Peinsbach Law Firm here in Madison, and I represent Alex and Jamie Tukendorf. They are neighbors, as Mr. Tukendorf mentioned, to the current mine and batch plant, and they would be neighbors to the mine expansion, also proposed by Mr. Patel, should it be approved. As you heard, the concrete plant and the current pit have caused a lot of problems for the Tukendorfs, and we oppose any expansion of that pit and approval of CUP 2405. Mr. Tukendorf showed you where he lived on the map there, and not just near to the pit, but also the haul road that will service the expansion. The current operation has presented significant quality of life issues for the Tukendorfs. You've heard about noise. That's probably one of the biggest impacts for them from activities at the mine and the plant site, and also the trucks that use that driveway. There are many, sometimes dozens, that go by a day, and it can be heard inside the home, and it cuts down their time to be outside. There's dust issues as well. Sometimes there's mud tracked onto the driveway that dries and becomes airborne, and it drifts over onto their property. That, along with the dust from the existing site, has affected them and gets on their cars and is a bother. Jamie Tukendorf recently retired and is home all day and is affected by the hours of operation for the current site, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. during the week. 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays, and then other times up to 30 days a year. Mr. Tukendorf works split shifts in the morning and at night in his home and is trying to get some rest during the day, and this is a problem for him as well. This has affected their property value. The town's assessor has recently valued their home at 1/3 less than the purchase price from 2005, prior to the plant becoming operational in 2011. And a private appraisal has put their lost value at over half of the purchase price. That's why we submitted a CUP revocation request for the concrete batch plant to the county recently for CUP 2175. We believe the loss in property values and the quality of life impact shows the facility no longer meets conditions 1 and 2 of the county's standards. Tying this into what you're here for tonight, CUP 2405, all of it's related. The expanded pit is to supply gravel for the pit, or the plant that is causing them that much trouble, or this trouble, and will extend its life. It will utilize the same driveway again. As we mentioned, the application was incomplete as to the amount of truck traffic that can be expected, but that is, as we mentioned, a significant issue. And then the Tukendorfs may also experience some direct effects from that new site. Like the existing operations, we believe the new one will not satisfy CUP conditions 1 and 2 at a minimum. The applicant hasn't submitted evidence that they can be met, and we've provided evidence showing that they can't. We gave you the appraisal from Mr. Craig Hungerford. I believe that's what Mr. McWilliams was alluding to before, but I think Mr. Hungerford, whose report we provided, is the only assessor appraiser who has been to the site. Also, any evidence as to the home value to the east of the Tukendorfs does not account for the impacts of the driveway that is adjacent to the Tukendorfs. So I think their impacts are much more pronounced than perhaps their neighbors. There have been some procedural issues during the CUP process at the town and now the county level that we've identified in our letter to you that we submitted last week. There's some notice issues. There were attempts to get the CUP approved at the town before there had even been an application with the county, and I think that confused matters at the town level, frankly. There was also a letter sent to the town in August.
About 30 seconds left.
30 seconds. I think minimizing Mr. Tukendorf's concerns. This also reinforces our concerns about enforcement should the CUP be approved. Two things that stand out. One is the county has said that the erosion permit that applies to the existing site isn't enforceable, and then when we question that, it was minimized as saying it's not, the violations of that permit to date are immaterial. And also, essentially we get the sense that because there's is a more, that's a less densely populated area, that it doesn't matter, but these impacts are less important. But zoning is for everybody. It should protect everybody, and we believe the CUP should be denied.
Okay, thank you. Also wishing to speak in opposition, or registered in opposition, is Jamie Tukendorf. You registered. Did you want to speak, or?
No, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition who didn't register? Okay, Kirk, is it, I say your name, last name? Island Folks is just arrived and wishes to speak in support. So just sure it's not the rebuttal, it's actually wishing to speak in support.
This is my wife, Heidi, work at Heidi Islandfeld.
Go ahead.
We're the owners of the existing farm. I don't know if you guys have any questions for us, but we currently farm the land, and as the CUP is being developed and it's they're being taken out, putting back in, we are the ones that will continue to farm those parcels as they're being reclaimed. We also continue to be a neighbor on the lower side, towards all the ditches. We have buffer strips in there. So we looked at all the water retention. We have no problems with that, but we will be a continuing neighbor also to this project. So I don't know if the board has any questions for us as owners.
Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yes, where do you live? Can you show us?
We don't live on this farm.
Okay.
We live probably
Mile and a half, 2 miles.
3 miles as a crow flies.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
I apologize for being late too.
Okay, thank you. All right, 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you. I want to point out, Attorney Weissenberg talked a little bit about some of the meetings we had at the town. There were some meetings and the town delayed some of the meetings. Dan Evenson was at some of those meetings, so some of those were delayed to accommodate and make sure that everyone was notified and a lot of these issues were addressed. Again, I get confused when I listen to opposition. This material that's coming out of here is sand and gravel out of the CUP that we're talking about. Most of the material is going to be processed into ready-mix concrete, which will be on the area where there's a CUP for it. So it's not driving up and down the roads, but it's being used for material that goes into concrete regarding it. I heard that we were operating 24 hours. We don't operate 24 hours. We have hours of operation. The city of Madison, or if somebody breaks down, has a pipe, we're allowed to go in, but we have to notice the town that we're going in. But if somebody has a water break and they need a load of stone, and it doesn't happen very often. So it's not 24 hours all the time that's going on. You're going to see a lot more as DOT wants to have work done at night, and so there's going to be efforts regarding that. But that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. We've worked through that on it. The sand works fine for ready-mix. So I don't know what they're talking about regarding the sand. We tested it. We tested the stone. It's good material, good torpedo sand for ready-mix. Again, just highlight that we're here just on the CUP. We're not here on the ready-mix CUP, or we're not here on the non-conforming use. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Roger?
The town of Cottage Grove has approved this with a set of conditions.
Miles?
Couple questions. Dan, on the non-conforming use site, is there a reclamation plan, and has any of that been executed? And does that plan have any provisions in parallel to what they're proposing? The key thing I heard was that you won't have more than 9 acres exposed at a time without incrementally reclamating. Has that been done on the non-conforming portion?
Well, just to back up a little bit, they do have an existing, an approved reclamation plan for the 52 acres, the non-conforming site. There has been no reclamation that's been certified by myself. There are some ponds in the back that might qualify as interim reclamation, but nothing has been certified by the planning and development. Going forward with the expanded area to the north, I've made that comment. It's my opinion that the reclamation plan for the existing site and the proposed site should be, the existing plan should be modified to accommodate the proposed area. So that includes erosion control, stormwater components as well.
So if approved, there will also be an update to the non-conforming portions.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So for the petitioner, in regards to that reclamation plan, do you plan on providing some reclamation provision in similar fashion for the non-conforming portion?
Yeah, Wade can probably address that. You want to go up to address that, Wade?
Can you explain that to me again, or ask the question again?
Well, you mentioned that for the new area, the proposed area, that you would not have a disturbed area of more than 9 acres, that you'd be
Correct.
incrementally reclamating. And then what I'm wondering is if you've exhausted a significant amount of excavation from the non-conforming site, is it your plan to also start doing some reclamation down there to minimize?
We are continually filling in these water areas, but it's also my anticipation with the mandatory recycling that the city requires for all city projects, and most jobs are now requiring, that we were going to do our recycling in this back area, which is an approved process for a non-conforming pit, to be farther away from everyone for dust control and everything else. So we would be starting to recycle back in this area and continue to fill in the ponds as we go.
And is that recycling activity something that's been going on to date? Or
Yeah,
it's
we're doing it now, but I'd like to move it down and back away from everybody to have a
where is it done now?
It's done right here.
Okay.
And I want to move it back here where it's more out of sight, out of mind, and easier to control the dust and not have.
So would there be opportunity for reclamation then in the front portion of it?
No, because this still has hundreds of feet of sand fill, but it's the orange select fill. It can't be used for concrete, but still it's great for filling up basements and pipe bedding and things like that.
So once the ready mix plant wasn't there, there's still material underneath
This has
it.
all probably 100 feet of deep of sand fill that still will come out of there.
And you're anticipating that the material from the proposed area would be taken down for processing and
Also in this back area, because it's farther away from everybody. We'd stockpile it there and then process it and bring it up as needed.
and the stockpiling would happen down in the non-conforming.
According to, it's on one of the plans, but we would stockpile either here or here, depending upon, because these things morph. You know, as you're moving and digging holes, we don't always have an exact spot, but we aren't planning on any material from here being any closer to the front than probably right about this hillside area, just to the south of that, or hopefully down in this area once we get the holes filled and start.
So is it your contention that the rate of excavation and then shipment of processed material out of the site is going to be exactly the same as it is now? You're just using a new area for excavation?
Yes.
So there is zero change in traffic?
No, I can't foresee any change in traffic because we're trucking from here to here. The same amount of trucks come in and out here for concrete. That won't change. It gets made in the concrete and comes out.
Any questions for anybody, Supervisor Bowman?
Yes, I believe my question is for you. Do you have any plans for dust abatement on the road?
We have a dust control plan, yes.
And what is that?
The real short version,
sure,
very concise, and I do have the guy here that monitors it too. He can answer, but when you see dust, you water.
Okay.
That's the simplest way to say it.
Wait, part of the road is paved, so you should show them where it's paved.
This is asphalt from here down to
Oh,
here.
okay.
That's
Right.
not a gravel driveway, that's asphalt.
Right.
So we have recycled asphalt on this roadway that goes down into the back.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to be dust-free, but it's not. We have a dedicated water truck, and I would imagine probably 3 to 4 times a day we put 4,000 gallons of water on that driveway to abate the dust.
Okay. And what about the truck alarms, the backup? I assume that's the backup alarms.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that can be done about those?
If I could turn them off, OSHA would,
No,
I'm sure would be on me so fast. I have to do that. I'm actually have people looking in to figure out. I've heard that there are some a type of alarm that's more direct to the ground and very close and doesn't amplify as far.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't found that, but I'd like to do it for all my construction equipment, like about 200 pieces building roads, because it is an issue everywhere you go.
One of the neighbors expressing opposition indicated that was a problem.
It is. There's a large 20-foot tall berm all the way across here, and the trucks have backup alarms when they come on the scale, when they come in, dumping. It's kind of hard. It just kind of comes with the territory. So if there's a way I can get something that's quieter, that is my intent.
Okay. And I guess my last question is, and again, this is probably, it does affect the operation, but the wooded areas that you see within the red outlined area, are those going to stay or are those gone?
No, those would go. They're actually scheduled to be logged off anyway.
Okay.
So he's going to log it off, and then when we restore it, my intent is to actually restore it back with trees.
Okay. All right.
You can buy a lot of oak trees and you can plant them periodically, and I think, after the 3rd or 4th year, we'll start reclaiming oak trees back.
Right. That was another question that one of the neighbors had.
Yeah.
So that's all I have, Wade.
Okay, other questions? Motion to postpone?
I'll make a motion to postpone based on opposition.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to postpone due to opposition. Further discussion? Yes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess the thing that I find most uncomfortable about this site is the idea that the presentation from the petitioner was that the 9 acres would be open at one time, but then on the existing site, it sounds like the entire 55 acres is open at one time. And so, granted that they don't have to, it's a non-conforming site, we don't have a regulatory hook into it, but they also presented the idea that they would be unifying the operation throughout the site, so it seemed like a better operation would be to try to come up with a 9 acres exposed at one time strategy for the entire combined 2 sites, not have the one site be very surgical and the other one be a 55-acre open soil. So that's my curbside analysis. Thank you.
Supervisor Machado, anything else?
May we address that? Just try to address it?
Just if you're called on.
Okay.
So, any further discussion? Seeing none on the motion postponed due to opposition, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And we're postponed due to opposition.
So,
Opposition.
I'm going to take that up again.
Okay, there was a typo, so there are 2 petitions that were tabled, they went to 201. So if I could have a motion to remove from the table petitions 11,236 and 11,238.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to remove from the table the 2 petitions that we tabled. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And so we'll go with rezone petition 11,236, Duacam Investments in the town of Cottage Grove.
Okay, I suppose you want a little backdrop on this property?
Would be helpful.
It's an existing single-family home that was burned by the Cottage Grove Fire Department, so everything is existing, the driveway, the septic. It's a full 1 acre lot. Due to its proximity to the Motorfield landfill, we feel that the best, back up, that its suitability for a single-family home isn't the ideal for this particular property, and it's also in between 2 commercial lots. So for that reason, we feel it's very well suited for this rezoning purpose.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
Not unless you have questions.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger, this is 236.
The town of Cottage Grove has approved this petition with no conditions.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? It's approved. And did you get a chance to fill out one of these white forms?
I didn't.
Roger, if you, or Dan, if you'd help him, or Todd, thank you.
Want me to fill that out?
They're over there.
Oh.
Yeah, just so, for the record that we had you speak here, we appreciate that. Okay, next is rezone petition 11,238, Travis Leeser, Town of Rutland. Did you get a chance to fill out the form? You'll need to fill one out, Austin, please.
No problem.
Thank you.
So my name is Travis Leeser. I am essentially, if you see the adjacent property directly to the east, all I'm doing is really buying that acreage. The reason that I have to rezone is because my property via A1 exclusive is non-conforming under 30 acres as is, so I'm required to rezone as soon as I change my lot lines. That's all I'm doing is buying an acre off my property to add some equity to my house. That's all. There's no development to it. There's nothing to it. Just relocating the lot lines, and I'm required to rezone because I'm non-conforming. That's all there is to it. It's pretty easy.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
Nope.
Anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Roger?
The town of Rutland has approved this petition with no conditions.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And it's approved, and just fill out a form, please.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I think we've accomplished everything in our public hearings. So we have our rezone from previous meeting, the two of them, 11163 in the town of Dunn. Roger, you want to update us on that?
Yes. This petition was postponed at the July 25th Zoning and Land Regulation Committee due to some concerns by the town of Dunn. After several months and several reiterations, the town has accepted the original proposal of creating the two lots very similar to the original. The petition is to rezone just to RH1 rural homes. There is no need to revise the petition to A-4 agriculture because there is no lot. The second or third revision had one lot here, and then an agricultural lot, and then it kind of shifted back. So we're back to the same original petition, A1 exclusive to RH1 to create two residential lots. And the town of Dunn has approved this design and the zoning with no conditions.
Move approval. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And it's approved. Next is rezone petition 11,165, Volsey LLC in the town of Rutland. And Tara Pearson is here if anyone wants to call. Roger.
Okay. So this petition was postponed on the January 9th Zoning and Land Regulation Committee to allow staff time to draft conditions for the proposed development. As you are aware, this petition was first presented for 4 acres and grown into approximately 19 acres. There is going to be one landowner. It does not appear that it will be divided in any way, but this will be a multi-tenant, multi-building commercial development. Since we met, the concept plan has been submitted. The concept plan shows several buildings for multi-tenant spaces. It cannot be any large, really large buildings because it is not serviced with sewer or water. So fire flow is pretty much non-existent. There's also an area for mini warehouses. The proposed owner has not provided any minimum standards for the development, and the county zoning ordinances are very minimal. We do not have any landscaping ordinances. We have very minimal lighting ordinances or any of that
aesthetic nature. So in order to steer this development into developing properly, staff has suggested that there will be 8 deed restrictions placed on the property to control development. The first one is for traffic control, and I talked with the state highway department, and they're comfortable with this deed restriction, that it acknowledges that State 138 is controlled access highway. State highway permit will be required to be obtained for any new buildings or change in land use which causes any increase in traffic volume. So any zoning permit being issued, they're going to need to revise their state highway access permit. So it will be regulated in that fashion, and improvements will be made to the intersection as it goes along. They're also required to submit a traffic impact study to the state, so they know how this is going to develop and have improvements made to the to the intersection as necessary. There were concerns with land uses. This is suggested to be C-2 commercial. It has a whole selection. The town has suggested some limited land uses. They are before you tonight, mostly offices, indoor sales, indoor entertainment, professional services, indoor contractor trade operations, vehicle repair services, indoor storage, distribution centers, light industrial businesses, and veterinarian clinics. So we suggest that the land uses be limited to those. Outsourced storage of material and construction equipment is of concern. Having retail commercial and then having a bunch of contractors' equipment may be a conflict between those two land uses. One of the suggestions that we're making is that any outdoor storage of materials or any construction, basically any outdoor storage areas may be permitted, but it's subject to site plan approval by this committee. Next deed restriction, outdoor storage areas. Basically, they're going to be fully screened with a 6-foot barrier and 90% opacity, so they could use a lot of trees, they could use fencing, and then that fencing material would be subject to approval by this committee. The lighting, this is a rural area. The town of Rutland does have dark sky requirements. We would like a deed restriction to be placed on the property so that all the lights are downlit. They comply with dark sky requirements. The parking lot lights could be no higher than 25 feet to give it more of a professional office appearance rather than 50-foot tall giant beacons in the sky. There is also some restrictions regarding the building exterior. I believe the suggested restriction gives the developer an opportunity to choose the exterior design and color palette, but ensuring that everybody's going to use, the material. So the deed restriction shall be reported on the property for building design. All buildings construction on the property shall have similar appearance and similar materials and color palette. The refuse containers or the dumpsters, they need to be screened as well with the similar materials. Landscaping, this is an agricultural field right now. It is in lack of any type of landscaping. Instead of getting very defined about landscaping all around buildings and parking lots and everything, we have suggested that there just be deciduous trees planted, basically 4 to 5 per building. So that will give some, instead of just buildings on the property, it'll give some landscaping. Just overall landscaping in open spaces. Because this is a retail development, staff is suggesting a deed restriction be placed on the property that all drive surfaces be asphalt. In our current zoning ordinance, it states that any parking areas could be gravel or asphalt. I believe to keep the development on a more upscale, that all areas be paved. And then signs. Basically, this is one large lot. There are minimum standards or maximum standards for signs. The restriction would just basically call out the same requirements as the Dane County sign ordinances, and that's one large pylon sign that they could have, one ground sign, and then wall signs for each building. And I believe that's about it. We have worked through it, and it's only being because we really don't know what's going to happen on this property, and there needs to be some type of regulations that the county ordinances are lacking.
Supervisor Miles.
I appreciate all the time and effort, thought went into developing these deed restrictions, but it has me wondering, wouldn't all this be a whole lot easier to administer and give guidance to the petitioner if it was as a planned unit development?
A planned unit development would be very specific because if they knew where all the buildings were, but it's going to be just regular retail. If there was going to be a very definite mix of land use, like if one area is going to be used for residential, one a retail component, and then maybe a mini warehouse component, that all those types of mixed land uses, I would suggest a planned unit development. They didn't have a plan for a planned unit development. That would take some, for the general development plan to occur, they would need to really look at specific how many buildings are going to be on the site and really commit to a development.
Supervisor McDonald.
Okay. Roger, I know you put a lot of work into it, and you said last time that you wanted more time. I guess 2 parts, a question and a statement, and then maybe another question. The question is, do you feel like you've had enough time? Do you think it's ready?
I do. I had enough time to develop the, look at any flaws and develop conditions around that. I have reviewed these with the applicant, and she has accepted these. Both we feel that it's good suggestions and gives her good guidance to have a quality development. So yes, I'm comfortable that I had enough time.
My statement was, I sort of read into what you said, and I was feeling like we're being asked to approve what's before us and things that will come on in the future. So we're essentially writing a blank check. I thought what I heard you say is that that's due to a flaw in our ordinances, that somebody can come in and say rezone this entire site, and we're not at liberty to say, we'll approve what you've got today, but you'll have to come back for the other 6 buildings.
Well, We have a zoning ordinance that is created for rural development, basically one site. And it's very limited because of the lack of electrical service. We do not have three-phase service like an industrial park. And there is a lack of fire flow. There is not municipal water. And there's also not municipal sewer. So density cannot be created, and large buildings really cannot be created unless you have a water tower. So being a commercial building out in the rural park really doesn't need the gingerbread along the outside like it would in a village or a city. All villages and cities, they have lighting ordinances, landscaping ordinances. Some have exterior design regulations. All those because of the density and trying to pack everything into a village, you need those regulations. In a rural area, really don't. If you have one commercial building alone, and the lighting is, our lighting code says that you can't see the glare of the light from a public road. Basically, if it doesn't blind you going down the road, it's good enough. So that's how our ordinance is. If you were in a municipality, you have foot candle limitations along the property line, intensity, as well as height regulations for. So it's really geared towards a rural setting. This is quite unique because it is development right next to a village, so it should have some of that flavor because it would kind of really look awkward in a high visible area that you just have metal buildings here and there with no semblance or no theme or no quality right next to a village.
Well, I think we agree. I think this is an awkward development. I think we're probably stuck with it. I would add to what Roger said that it's also at a highway interchange. So I agree that the cleanest thing would have been to annex it to the Village of Oregon, but I don't think we have the authority to compel that. But if staff have any ideas after, between meetings, I'd be interested in talking about it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Annexing this into the Village of Oregon, they would not be able to provide water service to this because the water service gets stubbed across Highway 14 probably a half a mile to the north. That will develop as you go down. There's tons of wetlands and floodplain in that area and so there's a huge expense. The Village of Oregon did look at that. That was our first, just annex it into the village so it could be developed in village. And the village was comfortable with it being developed in the town because they could not provide services to this area. So that was our first.
That's it.
So yeah, we tried that already.
I appreciate that background.
I'll move to approve with the conditions.
Town and staff.
Town and staff conditions.
And deed restrictions,
All that.
all the above.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a motion and a second to approve with town and staff recommended conditions and deed restrictions. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, and it's approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I think we have CSMs.
One plat.
One flat, thank you.
This is a final plat, Tumbledown Farm, town of Middleton, a little over 50 acres. Consists of 41 residential lots. There's a little bit of a typo on the agenda. This is actually consideration of the 1128 conditional approval of a final plat. So what's before you is execution of the plat and then looking for the final signature by the chair of the committee. There's just been one minor change in regards to an alignment along lots 6, 7, and 8. They removed the bump out as per the town, and so it's more of a standard 66-foot right-of-way. So there's just been a minor adjustment there. I do have the notation with regards to the outlots. There's a few outlots that don't meet lot size or lot width requirements in regards to Chapter 75. So I do have a note on the plat that states that no development is to take place on those lots. And Dan Frick, like in my letter from 11/28, he's looked at the proposed road name, Superior Oak Lane. He's okay with that. Utility easements are provided. All streets have been noted on the plat as being dedicated to the public. Prior to any excavation or grading, they have to have their erosion control stormwater approvals from Land and Water Resources. And the town of Middleton has signed it today. So everyone's ready to go.
I'll move approval and execution of the plat.
We have a motion and a second for approval and execution. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And it's approved and ready for execution. Okay, CSMs?
That's just my report.
That's it? I mean, you do have it though.
Oh, it's not on there?
Yeah.
Should be on there.
It's in the packet.
In our packet, I just didn't know.
Sorry.
No?
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay, anything back for Dan on CSMs?
Well, yeah, the list that you see before you is the ones that have been signed and recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, right there.
Screaming Norwegian. Okay. All right. That's our last agenda item.
Move adjournment.
I've just one item, just one item, just very short discussion. The zoning division did receive a complaint or request for revocation for the concrete batch plan on Wade Catel's. I have Corporation Counsel looking at it. It may be on the next agenda for discussion and to sift through whether or not it rises up to the level of having a public hearing for revocation.
So when Ms. Whitaker said that, she said something about a revocation, and I was like, okay, that's what
Yes,
that is.
they have it as part of your package, and they also delivered it separately on 2 different days. So it was a little confusing, but we're sifting through it and getting a proper procedure from Corporation Counsel. The concrete batch plan.
Okay, Supervisor Montano moved adjournment,
I reactivate my motion.
and you second it? Sure. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned. Thank you. Not bad.